I ritual summon Soul Burner development. Hey everybody, Templar74 here with another Yu-Gi-Oh video, and today's Yu-Gi-Oh video is going to be my thoughts and impressions regarding the latest episode of Yu-Gi-Oh VRAINS, episode 52. And I gotta be honest with you guys, this episode wasn't so much about the dueling, although dueling was and always is a major part of every Yu-Gi-Oh episode. What really made this episode was the Soul Burner development and the Soul Burner backstory, and I'm so glad that my biggest fear did not come to pass, because when Soul Burner was initially revealed to us, I thought, oh no, I really hope he's not going to be a cut and paste of Playmaker, and thank God that's not what happened. Soul Burner, in fact, has his own motivations behind him, his own story, almost and arguably, if not worse than Playmaker, if I may say. But we'll talk about that a little bit later on in this video. So anyway, before I ramble on too much longer, the actual episode. The episode begins with a recap of last week's episode where Soul Burner asks Go, where is the Go Nisaka that gave him courage to move forward, as he vows to bring out the real Go Nisaka and that he can't lose either before drawing and making his move. We then go on to the opening of the episode, but after the opening, this is where the episode takes the unexpected turn into Soul Burner development territory. So when we actually start the episode, we don't go back to this duel. Instead, we get a montage back to the Lost incident. And we actually more specifically see the rescue of Soul Burner when he was recovered after the Lost incident. We see him in the back of the ambulance asking questions, or being asked questions that he answers. And then we see him in the hospital, where when he's in the hospital, we actually see his grandma and grandpa appear, much to Soul Burner's joy. He's like, Grandma, Grandpa. But then when he asks where's his mom and dad, the room just goes quiet. They bow their heads and we see the wind blow outside the window. So we learn later on in the actual episode that during the Lost incident, Soul Burner's parents were out there searching for him, and they got into an accident and they died. So Soul Burner's parents died searching for him while he was kidnapped by the Knights of Hanoi, or what would later become the Knights of Hanoi and Dr. Kogami. So this is something that really burns inside Soul Burner. It's burned a deep, deep scar in him, and that's what motivates him to move forward. But again, we don't learn about this till later on in the episode. So anyway, the duel goes on. Soul Burner begins making his move, but as Soul Burner is beginning to make his turn against Go Nisaka, all of a sudden these trap orbs that we saw earlier in this whole arc here come lobbing right at Soul Burner. And Soul Burner is essentially, at first, him and Flame both think Go is responsible for it. And they even say to Go, how could you stoop so low? And Go Nisaka say, you must be worse than stupid if you think I'm doing this. And as another orb comes flying at them, Go actually takes the hit. Well, it turns out these orbs that are being lobbed at Soul Burner are actually coming from Zaizen's assistant back at Solid Technology, because she's afraid that if Go loses the duel, Zaizen will be demoted again, and that she's basically just protecting Zaizen by doing this. But Zaizen finds out what she's up to not too much later after this. In fact, he picks up on it almost instantly. And she's in trouble now, because Zaizen basically says to her, when duelists are serious, you do not interfere. And you're coming back to the office to speak with me after this duel is over. So we see all this go on. We go back to the duel. Go has bet everything on his Dino Wrestler strategy, the combination of Dino World Wrestling Field Spell and his T-Rexel. So this is all going on. This is the strategy he's banking on to win the duel. But Soul Burner manages to pull out a win using pretty much 3 cards, are all he uses to turn this duel around. And those 3 cards are the Link Fire Return, which allows him to revive Heat Talayo that Go had destroyed, with its effects negated, of course. We then see Salamangreat Sanctuary, which of course is the card, if you guys remember, that allows Soul Burner to bring out his unique Link Summon technique, which is, of course, Reincarnation Link Summon. Now, when Go sees this, he doesn't know what to make of it, because, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, a couple episodes ago where we saw Soul Burner duel for the first time against Bit and Boot, we saw Blue Angel see it, Ghost Girl saw it, Playmaker saw it, Zaizen saw it. Just about everybody in Link Brains had seen it, except Go Nizuka. He's the only one that doesn't really know about this and doesn't really know what to make of this. And Go actually still manages to put Soulburner in a pinch. He's right on the verge of winning after he goes after Jack Jaguar rather than go after Salaman Great, because Go even says to himself, back when I was an entertainment duelist, I would pit our ace monsters against one another to give the crowd a sensation that there would be like a tense moment, a big battle, but I'm not going to do that this time. I'm a bounty hunter. All I'm worried about is a guaranteed win. So he goes after the weaker of the monsters, but of course Soulburner manages to save himself by dropping Heat Lyle's attack all the way to 0. He's able to regain that much as life, and he saves himself. And of course he also opens the door for his skill the next turn, which is Burning Draw, which allows him to drop his life points to 100 and draw a card for every 1,000 points he threw away. And ultimately, the card he draws that wins him this duel through this skill is a ritual card. It's called Rise of the Salaman Great Ritual. And this card allows him to ritual summon Salaman Great Emerald Eagle, which is the monster that wins the duel for him, because Emerald Eagle's effect basically allows Soulburner to deal attack damage to life points, which ultimately ends up being Go's defeat. So Go loses the duel to Soulburner, which honestly was not that big of a surprise. We pretty much already knew that was going to happen. And Soulburner actually comes up to him and says, hey, you're still the Go that gave me strength. You're a hero. And, don't forget about that. And that's when Go basically said, you don't know anything. Defeat is what ultimately proves. He goes on this long rant, basically being a sore loser about defeat, and that shows who the true duelist is. And of course, I also failed to mention, I can't believe I forgot to mention, during all this stuff going on, we get another montage back to Soulburner's past, where he's looking back at Go, Blue Angel, and Playmaker, and what they had managed to do for him in defeating the Knights of Hanoi. And we actually see one of his classmates come up to him, a girl rather, and she basically is trying to convince him to come back to school. But instead, Soulburner looks at her and says, look after my grandma and grandpa. There's somewhere I got to go. I'm not myself, and I got to go do something. And ultimately, that is the journey that led him to Din City and, of course, into this whole mess. So anyway, that was pretty much the episode. Like I said, it wasn't so much focused on dueling. It was more focused on Soulburner backstory. And I'm so glad Soulburner's got a unique backstory. And I feel so bad for the guy. I mean, arguably, his backstory is worse than Playmaker's. But I digress on that. Anyway, that was the episode. Still a really great episode in my opinion. Overall, I give this episode a 9 out of 10. But as always, in the comments section down below, let me know what you guys thought of this week's episode. Did you love it? Did you hate it? Did you think it was just there? What are your thoughts on Soulburner and his development? What are your thoughts on Go Nizuka's ultimate defeat in this duel? What do you think is going to happen between Playmaker and the other bounty hunter that's about ready to go down here at the bounty hunter, who I can't think of his name right off the top of my head? He gives me the Death Gun vibe from SAO. But anyway, all that aside, just let me know what your guys' thoughts are about all this in the comments section down below, because as always, I enjoy hearing from you. All right, everyone, as always, Templar74 signing off. Have a great day, everybody, and I'll talk to you all next time. Goodbye, everybody.